everybody and welcome to another episode of Music of the Week, the last one for the January releases, well, the ones that I could get around to. Some of them may have had to be pushed back to February, spoiler alert, tiny spoiler alert. But yeah, another 5 albums to go through, and you know what, I think this will be a fun way to round off the month of Music of the Week episodes, so let's just do it. Well, round off last month because we're in February now. But you know what I mean, so yeah, 5 albums to go through, let's go through them now. We first go to Woodland Hills, California for Bad Sons and their 4th album, Apocalypse Whenever. Now, I'd known about them for a little bit. I heard about their last album, released in 2019, titled, what was it called? Mystic Truth. I heard about that, but I never got around to it because I wasn't as much into like the indie subgenres, and this album did not fully convince me, but it's not entirely its fault. This album gets a C. One of the reasons is, the production is god-awful and they use way too much auto-tune on the lead singer's voice that did not need to be used, because when he's allowed to sing, he's really good. You know, it buries the instruments a little bit too much for me, but there's solid keyboard work at the same time, so it's very confusing. It's not badly put together, and the band do have a charm to them. I can understand why people like them, but I don't know, I feel like this was a bad introduction for me personally, and I feel like they're capable of so much more, and I get the feeling that it wasn't completely their fault. Especially because they're on Epitaph. You know, this is their second album on Epitaph, and I don't know, like, if that was the entire point, but something really went wrong with the production of this one, but the band do well, and there's decent instrumental work when you can hear it, but the production buries it. But also, the lyrical themes are kind of basic, I don't know. It's not a horrible album, but it just unfortunately has a lot going against it, which is what makes the grade sort of apply to it, I think. Next we go to Lahti, Finland, the country where I want to be, for Dawn of Solace and the third album, Flames of Perdition. I knew completely nothing about these going in, but they initially formed in 2005 and broke up in 2013. And there was like a 14-year gap between their first and second albums. Speaking of 14-year gaps between albums, spoiler for the last album I'll be doing for this episode. But yeah, these are a very solid sort of death metal leaning, doomy metal leaning band. Well, I say band loosely because there's only 2 people in it, and one of them, Tuomas Saukonen, I know I'm not saying that right, does all the instruments and the harsh vocals, and there's a clean singer named Mikko Heikkilä. I don't know how to say that either, but yeah, it's basically just one dude doing everything, and he goes off on all of it, and this album is really solid. I have to admit, I'm giving it a B. It's a lot more melodic than I was expecting the genre to be, especially considering how much of it I've listened to in the past 2 years alone. Like, it's nice to have something new added to it, and this is one of those great cases of a rare exception of that being thing, like Tribulation, I think their name is, with their last album. But yeah, really, really nicely put together. I like a lot of the lyrical things personally. I think the performances are solid, even though it is just Thomas doing almost everything. Mika's a really good clean vocalist, though. However, the album does lose a couple of points because the last 2 songs are live versions of old songs, and that does not make this album 10 songs long. That just makes it 8 to me. You know, I always cut off if bullshit like that happens, and yeah, that didn't need to be added on. They had 2 years to make this one. They could have easily just made 2 original songs instead of padding it out with live versions of old ones. I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't really happy with how that shook down, but I still recommend seeking this one out. Really fun metal, surprisingly. Really well handled. A lot of great build-ups. Not many lyrics in between, but there is still some. And yeah, it's very focused on the instrumental work, and that's what makes it work for me. Next we go to Mansfield, Pennsylvania for The Last 10 Seconds of Life and their self-titled 6th album. For context, it's just their 6th album, they're self-titled, their previous 5 have completely different titles. Which makes it more bizarre, because usually you use the self-titled thing for a debut. Not 6 bloody albums in. These are a deathcore act from Pennsylvania, as I just mentioned, and in contrast to the other 2 deathcore acts, and, well, a couple of the other 2 deathcore acts I've covered so far this year, this one wasn't as good as those. I'm giving this a C+, right? But I will admit, it's an album where a lot of weird shit happens. And it's like a car crash, because you can't turn yourself away. It's overly long. The production is weird. It buries the guitars, weirdly enough, but great vocal work from the lead singer. Really love the drum work too. The lyrical themes are a bit odd, and there's just so much wacky shit going on with it that it was very difficult to get out of my head. It's not one of my favourites of the year because I think because of that, but also in spite of that, I don't know. I would recommend this one, just for how much weird things happen in it. Like, you know, is it as straightforward, brutal, and is it as like technical as Fit for an Autopsy's new album? No. Is it as absolutely fucking magical and brilliant as Shadow of Intensity new album? No. But you should listen to it. It's it's an oddity of an album, right? But it's worth listening to at least once, I think, because, well, more than once. I mean, C plus is not the worst grade, but, like, I think the plus is because of the weird shit. It makes it stand out a little bit more in my mind. I don't really know. You know, I think you would have to listen to this to see for yourself, and I do recommend you doing that, but yeah, it's a very weird album for the genre, and I think that's part of why I kind of don't fully hate it. Next up, we go to the only sort of UK act in Llanelli, I hope I'm saying that right, from Wales, Scarlet Rebels with their second album, See Through Your Blue. So, this is one of the first straight-up rock acts I've covered in a long-ass time, and the main reason I don't typically cover just straight-up rock acts is because they don't really change much about what they do. However, this was refreshingly different, and I'm giving this the only A-ish grade, an A-. I really, really liked how this was put across. Amazing charisma from the entire band, especially lead singer / third guitarist sort of Wayne Doyle. There are 3 guitar rock bands. You don't really get a lot of those these days. But yeah, he was great. Everyone else was really great as well. I think his brother's the drummer too, which is kind of cool. So it's another sort of like family related thing that I always love to see in bands. And honestly, it's just surprisingly solid in terms of his lyrical themes, going for a more politically active thing that lands, you know, and you could tell that from the album's cover art, which is absolutely phenomenal. I really like how this looks. I'm not going to show it again because you've already seen it earlier, but god damn, it looks nice, don't it? You'll have to rewind to watch it. Anyway, yeah, really love the lyrical themes. The guitar work is amazing. There's so many great solos, really great drum work, really nice bass work too. There's even a keyboard guy, you know? You don't, again, another thing you don't really get in a lot of punk rock. And I guess the easiest band I could compare these two would be Madison, who are, funnily enough, also Welsh and also a hard rock band. But, you know, they're two sides of a different coin, and I love Madison, don't get me wrong. I like Scarlet Rebels, I really do. For only their second album, this is very impressive. It does a lot against the genre, and probably the most recommended one I would have for this episode. Solidly structured as well. It does have a few too many slower paced songs, but it makes up for it in some really nice ways. And the production is clean as all hell, so yes, you should absolutely find this one to listen to while you can. Finally, we go to Indianapolis, Indiana for Trenches with their second album, Reckoner. So, people might know a little bit about Trenches, and I subconsciously knew a little bit about them too, because I'd listened to Haste the Day, and the connection there is that the lead vocalist for Haste the Day, Jimmy Ryan, also formed Trenches at some point as well, and he's done a couple of other bands like in between or before Haste the Day, and this is the spoiler I was bringing up. This is Trench's first album in 14 years. It's their first self-released one, and it's a very strange one. I'm giving it a B- because I did like it. However, if you've listened to a Haste the Day album, you're really just going to get the same feeling coming off of this one. That's why I don't know, maybe it's because they have the same lead singer, but instrumentally it sounded very much the same as well. It did go for more like emo alt-rock vibes at points, which I did appreciate. And there's very grim lyrical themes to it as well. You know, even like Dawn Solace's lyrical themes, like for Flames of Perdition, they were not as dark as this. And again, I think the only thing holding me back from liking it more than I want to is the fact that it just sounds like Haste the Day album, which is not a bad thing because I like Haste the Day. But yeah, I'd still recommend you give it a listen. Jimmy Ryan is still a really solid vocalist in the Christian music scene, and the other people he gets for this one, who I think there's like no members from the original lineup. Yeah, no, there's like 2, but the rest of them are completely new. They all fit in quite nicely. It's got weird structuring to get around as well, and it does feel very filler heavy, but it does have solid themes and solid performances, and very strangely muddy production that can help and hinder at the same time. So yeah, I'd recommend listening to this one, but be a bit more cautious around it. And that'll about do it. That's another episode of Music of the Week. As for what's next from me, well, hopefully tomorrow night, more Resident Evil 7 to stream. Hopefully I'll be able to get past all of Lucas's traps, the bastard. And I will see you all for that, because I don't have many other videos planned. Maybe for the night review. Oh, before I go, I want to say thank you to anyone who watched my new backtracking episode, because it was my first, like, not fully scripted one. And it was very cool to just like come up with wacky shit off the top of my head. Yes, it resulted in a longer video, but it was so much more fun, and it gave me similar vibes I do when doing these, because these are not scripted at all, except for like the band name, the album name, and the the grade, and I do have to bring up where they're from as well, using Wikipedia and things like that. But besides that, not scripted. So that's there you go, and I'll see you all hopefully tomorrow night. And as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.